Actually, the software that my team wanted to use 3 years ago cost $24,000 a year to use. And our CEO said, no, it's too much. Why don't you just try to build it yourself? And we did. So essentially, we saved $24,000 by building this instead of going off and trying to buy it somewhere else. We have our own application that we've built. It's not something that we're selling to anyone else. It's just something internally that we use. It's very customized just to us. But we were able to build it, and it has some fairly advanced features in it that enable us to manage our work, to share our work, to get other people to request work from us.
Welcome to Who Invited Marketing, the podcast that gives marketers the inside scoop on how to level up and stand out. My today's guest is Neil Miller. Neil is the Director of Product Marketing at Kissflow, a place where he has worked for over 10 years. In this episode, we talk about citizen development, building your own apps, messaging for SMBs versus enterprise, figuring out right channels for enterprise, and of course, how to get promoted. But before we get into the good stuff, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Spotify, drop a rating. It helps more marketers like you find these game-changing insights. Here's presenting Neil Miller. Hi Neil, welcome to Who Invited Marketing. I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, sure. It's my pleasure.
I want to start with a fundamental yet important question. What led you to product marketing?
Well, my boss asked me to do it. I was not really, I didn't have a background in product marketing. My background was in content marketing, but I'd worked in a small company at that time. When I joined, there was only about 25 people. So I was in touch with the product team, in touch with the sales team, a part of the marketing team. So it wasn't a big jump. Later on, when he suggested it, we didn't really have that function existing in the company at that time. I was in content marketing and then was out of it for a little while doing something else. So it was just the right time and right fit to step in and kind of sit in that role to be able to connect a lot of dots that hadn't been connected yet.
Most of the PMMs I know also start with content. So
Yeah.
that's all of our stories. So now, fast forward to today, you're the director of product marketing at Kissflow. That's
Yeah.
a big role. What does a typical day look like for you, and how does it differ from other PM roles that you have had?
Well, I've never done another one. So I've been with Kissful for 10 years. So some of my experiences are just limited to knowing there. And I feel like that's important because from what I've gathered talking to other PMMs, every company's different. Every company kind of does it a different way. Part of that is because no company ever starts with a PMM role. Like it's not like the first hire or you're in the first 10. Like it's always added on a little bit later. And at that point, you're trying to fix a problem that you have. So, and everyone kind of has a different problem. So to look at what a typical day looks like for me, I'm managing projects. So we have a big board of projects that we're trying to look at. Like right now, I'm looking at redoing our homepage on our website. And we're also doing some activities with different regions, more even some on some branding type things. And those two things, other PMMs may never touch in other companies. They may not touch the website, they may not touch branding stuff, but that's something that we do. Otherwise, we're doing case studies, talking to customers, getting in touch with them, meeting with our account managers, asking them kind of how things are going, what stories are worth sharing, getting feedback on that. I was working on a product roadmap deck earlier today, kind of being able to share that out. We were strategizing about a quarterly product webinar that we do just to keep people up to date, customers up to date on what's going on. So it's pretty varied. About twice a year, I have to sit down with all the things that we're doing, just list them out, figure out who's doing them, what kind of accountability matrix we can construct around it. Do we need to still do those? So it stays pretty active.
Got it. So Kissflow competes in a crowded low-code, no-code market with players like Zapier and Airtable. How do you conduct a competitor analysis, and what specific steps do you take to position Kissflow differently?
Yeah, we our competitive analysis is really increased a lot since we started the PMM role. We had a few people in the product that would like sort of watch out for a few competitors before that. But then once we got it as a full function, it became a bigger thing that we wanted to do. Well, right now, what we do is once a month, we host a kind of an open comparison internally with we'll just pick one of our competitors and say, okay, we're gonna look at them, see how their product looks, what do they use for marketing, what can we learn about their tech stack and things that we can learn from that. Then we'll use that information to produce the battle cards. We'll produce PDFs that can be shared with a prospect if they want a specific comparison. And then we'll also put some of that information on the website as well. Choosing competitors is the biggest challenge, I would say, because there are so many. We Kissflow came out of the BPM world, so business process management. So we were a lot of workflow, a lot of process. Now we are a low code application development platform. So we have still kind of both those worlds we're trying to manage and figure out. Mostly though, look at the bigger low code players, and a lot of this gets fed from sales data. And uh, whenever we're on a call, then we know, okay, who prioritize, which ones seem like competitors but aren't really ones that we come up against very much. So that's been probably the most fun thing too. And when it comes to how we position, then because we have that background in um, the workflow world, that's helpful. But we also, I would say, about 6 years ago, we really doubled down on just the idea of simplicity and saying that okay, Kissflow is we bring the simple approach to these complex topics. We have to always keep saying like, okay, we're not. It's not like simple because like kids use it. It's because it's difficult to make something complex simple. Done that. That's the feedback we get from customers and everyone else too, is that we're the easiest form. We've done the hard work of figuring out how to abstract all these things and make it easy for people to use, whether that be people who are, core developers or people who are citizen developers, we say, that come in and don't have that programming experience. So that enables us to get a good positioning.
Love the selecting the competitor part because a lot of times we think all of like we have a group in our mind and we think all of them are competitors, but then you have to really choose, pick and choose
Yeah,
to do that.
it's true. And for the most part, I rely on sales data for that. So within our CRM, there's a place for salespeople to mark whenever we're up against somebody, and we just, once a quarter or so, we'll check those out, see who still is in those top spots. If there's anybody new coming up that we need to be aware of. So that's probably the main place. But then we also know like we want to be prepared for other companies that aren't on our radar yet, but might be at some point. So that's been a big driver for us.
One thing that stood out to me on your LinkedIn is your focus on citizen development. I see a lot of insights and videos about it. For those unfamiliar, could you explain what citizen development is and how Kissflow empowers these users to build apps and automate workflows without relying on IT?
Citizen development is a term that Gartner came up with several years ago that just refers to people who are non-IT roles when they start to build their own software solutions. I find the easiest way to compare it is just through thinking about maybe not development, but a designer role. So, for example, it's typically you would hire professional designers to make your slides, to make your brochures, and different things like that. But because of the advent of newer tools, things like Canva, and somebody with just some basic design awareness and a good eye can make something decent. So they may not be like to the professional level of a professional designer, but somebody else can still do something. And so the same thing happens in the development world in the sense of, hey, I need something. I need to create a solution to something that I need. And often it's something just for my team or it's something that's just for it. And actually, a good example is within product marketing. We have our own application that we've built. It's not something that we're selling to anyone else. It's just something internally that we use. It's very customized just to us, but we were able to build it and it has some fairly advanced features in it that enable us to manage our work, to share our work, to get other people to request work from us. But we built that on Kissflow.
That
None of
is
us
so
are
impressive.
developers. Yeah, and that's what we try to do with Kissflow with everyone else is to say, hey, you have things, and like we also at Kissflow, we don't have a separate IT team that I could ask to build something like that. And most organizations they would have, maybe an IT team, but they're not going to spend time with the product marketing team to build our own thing because there's not a lot of maybe in our situation there wasn't a monetary benefit, but other organizations, there maybe even within a small team, they could, whether that be because they're getting extra productivity or because it's a compliance issue or because they want to replace software. We see that a lot is that maybe we're using a lot of software. Actually, the software that my team wanted to use 3 years ago cost $24,000 a year to use. And our CEO said, no, it's too much. Like, we're not going to pay that for what you want. Why don't you just try to build it yourself? And we did. So essentially, we saved $24,000 by building this instead of going off and trying to buy it somewhere else. So that's what citizen development means. It's one of the core positions that we have because Kissflow is so easy to use. We know it's an area we can really do well in. So I do a lot with that. I'm doing podcasts with that. This is also kind of a branding thing to figure out how popular this term is, where we can find some traction within it. And so it's a fun topic.
It sure is. So, Kissflow serves businesses of all sizes. How do you tailor messaging for SMBs versus enterprise?
That's been a challenge, and mostly because we are like many companies within our marketing trying to do that upstream swim of speaking mostly to enterprises. We're not necessarily trying to get like the Fortune 50, but we do want organizations of over 1,000 people probably because that's when you have all these teams with all these needs and the IT team can't service them on their own anymore. That really is our sweet spot when it happens. So previously, we were a little bit more small business focused, mid-sized business, right down from our pricing to our messaging. But that now we're having to change our tactics a little bit, and that goes into our design. It goes into our messaging. It goes into how we present ourselves, how we talk about it, what events we go to, those types of things. It's I would say we're still in that process. We I still get the feedback from a lot of our newer sales folks. It says, "Hey, this just doesn't look enterprisey." As what they'll so we have to go back and change things and figure out what it is about it that for them doesn't look like this is, belongs at the very highest levels, which on some level it's like, okay, we also we don't want to be cold. We have a unique, we're called Kissflow, right? So it's not like we are expecting everyone to take us super seriously, but we do want them to say like, yeah, and this is a legitimate option too. So it's balancing that aspect of still being fun and not taking ourselves too seriously, but also having a good message.
Best of both worlds, right? How does your GTM strategy change for these segments?
The segments in terms of the size of companies, uh, I mean, most of Kissflow's success up to maybe 3 years ago was driven by organic search, mostly just people searching for workflow or something like that and finding Kissflow. Now, because it's enterprise sales, I would say it's quite a different shift comparing what Kissflow is now to 5 years ago. The GTM function is very different. We have field sales now, as whereas before we didn't. We expect longer cycles now, whereas before we didn't. And we know that there's a lot of extra collaterals. We have to go through a lot of extra hoops to get those sign offs. So we know the sales process gets elongated. They need more reassurances. They may need more touch points. We need better case studies. We need more high profile case studies to show that we're capable at this level. So it's been a big shift for us as a company to figure out how to make those happen and understand those things. We've relied a lot on some of the newer sales folks that have experience in those worlds to help us with that. That's been helpful. Thankfully, we have a CEO who's well known in certain circles and has the influence and has a lot of connections. So he also is able to use those to help us to learn how those bigger companies work too.
I'd love to go just a little bit deeper. Could you walk us through a recent GTM campaign that was particularly successful and what made it work?
Let's see. So one of the things that we like to do is just to be able to get out in front and show the product. I would say that's always the biggest thing. Most of our successes happen because the champion team or the buying committee starts to see Kissflow and they start to use it themselves. Once we can get people to start using Kissflow, then we have a big advantage. We've even lost deals where the buying committee comes back to us and says like, look, you guys are the easiest to use, you're the simplest, but blah, blah, blah. There's this other reason why we couldn't do it. But really a lot of our biggest success has come from situations where we, as soon as possible, get the prospect to start using it and the prospect team to start using it to see the potential, see what they can do. There are certain things that are just so much easier to do in Kissflow than pretty much all of our competitors. So anytime we can get out there and demonstrate it, and that's a hard thing to do at scale. It's difficult to try to convince, or to demonstrate a large group of people what it is because there are only so many people that are actually going to be building on the platform. And they're usually not looking for the solution. They're just going to be using it later on. So marketing, it's a challenge to trying to find those. But I feel like the best GTM strategies are when we're able to quickly get in, find the people that care the most that are going to be building, get them to sell the product internally, and really be advocates for us. And so we have a lot of great stories that revolve around that kind of sequence.
So, for most campaigns, you want that thing to come out.
Yeah, show the product, talk about the product. I try to as best we can. Like we're I don't wanna win the necessarily just the thought battle and just to get an idea in their head. I do want people to think about simplicity. I want people to think about citizen development, to think about us, but I also want them to, like, see the workflows, see the forms, see how easy it is to build things because that tends to be what sticks with them the most and what actually completes the sale.
Got it. So, once you have the right messaging, the next challenge is always choosing the right channels. How do you decide which channels, be it LinkedIn, email, demos, to which channels to invest in?
Yeah, we're still in the middle of that, I would say, as we get used to this more enterprise world. We're trying pretty much all of them, figuring out what's useful for what. We have done big events, we've done small events, we've done digital events, we've done in person, we do email, we do LinkedIn, we do ads, we still do organic search, just field sales, connecting with people. So there's a lot of options that we have. And we work with partners as well. So there's a lot of things that happen on that level that help us to continually try to figure out what's the best. And it's not like we some of this is us figuring out things because we're new to this world. Some of it is the world itself keeps shifting and people keep moving and it's difficult to keep up with things. And so you have to keep your toes in lots of different things. The great thing is within our marketing team, there's a lot of good ideas, a lot of youth, a lot of people that want to try things. So we're always running experiments, always trying to figure out things. And there are certain aspects that we don't do as much anymore because we have found that they haven't been as effective for us. But we're always trying to figure out things and very open to trying something new.
Experimentation is key.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to tell you, hey, we did all the experiments, we figured it out. We only do these two things. We're just not there yet, and maybe we'll never get there just because of the state of the world and because of how difficult it is to try to nail things down. But at this stage, we are still like needing to experiment and needing to find things. I I like you said, I hope we don't stay there forever. I hope we're able to really kind of find our sweet spot and just commit to those. But maybe that won't happen. I'm not sure.
Got it. So, one of the problems that most PMMs have is getting sales to use their messaging, battle cards, or sales enablement materials. How do you ensure the sales team actually uses what a PMM creates?
Yes, that is a challenge often. A few things. One is like I do try to respect sales folks. Be like, look, you're seeing things I don't see. You're in places I'm not in. I don't want to become like this messaging police that swoops in and tells you did it wrong because that's just going to build a bad rapport with sales. I find that the best thing that I can do is just create great stuff and make sure they know about it. So there's one particular competitor that we come up against a lot, and we've always are trying to develop better collaterals for that particular competitor. And even today, I was on a call where someone had said, "Hey, that deck you made, I used it and it was really good. It like really helped out a lot." That like means the most to us because we create the stuff, we keep it in a very accessible place. So we have a repository within our app that we have that's there. It's always available, very searchable, very findable. And then I also do like a monthly update for everybody. I'll create my own videos. Say like, here's all the new stuff that's there. It's just so everyone is aware of what's new. Here's some of things that they should be aware of. And getting that kind of feedback from people too. So they'll comment and say, "Oh, hey, thanks for this. This looks exciting. This looks like good stuff to do." So I would say the biggest thing is like keeping that good rapport. Don't try to force things on people. I also started to just meet individually with most of our sales team. We don't have a huge sales team in terms of actual people that are having these conversations. So it's conceivable that I can put them all on my calendar, meet with them once every 2 months, individually say, hey, what's working for you? Have you tried this? This is a new thing that we have. Give this a shot. Give me some feedback. That approach tends to work pretty well. Where I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work, but I want you to try it and tell me. Sales folks are generally more open to that kind of discussion than me going in and being like, no, hey, I saw this recorded video and you didn't use the
Mm.
slides that I had before. So that tends to be my approach for trying to make sure that sales uses what we have.
That's a great approach to like to meet people and make them see what you're saying, from where you're coming from, instead of just saying that why didn't you use that? It's a great
Yeah,
tip. On that note, what's one common mistake PMMs make when it comes to sales enablement?
I think it would just be that it would be to assume that you have some kind of automatic authority. And if even if the CEO comes down and says, "Hey, all sales need to listen to PMM. They are the smartest people in the room. You got to listen to them." Even if that happens, the sales will still be like, "No, like I'm gonna do my thing. I still know what I'm doing." So uh, the assumption I'm always having to make is I have to earn the trust. I have to earn that respect from the other functions, and no one's going to give it to me. So I'm always looking to find ways to make sure that people want to use the stuff that I have. People want to come to us and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. Do you have anything? Or can you make something new for this because it's important. Got something to close." Those are the types of situations where I try to build that respect and a rapport, not just assume that I have it or that somebody has to follow me. So those are probably the biggest mistake that you assume, hey, I'm a PMM now, so I'm in charge of positioning. I'm in charge of messaging. It's like, well, at least in my company, I know that I'm not. I am the collector of information, and I will put out my best messaging, pricing, positioning, all these things. I'm going to influence and have some voice in, but I know that it's never just going to stop with me. So it's helpful to have that perspective and know it's always a team sport when it's coming in.
Absolutely. Beyond just selling the product, retention and adoption are obviously key. What's your approach to ensuring new customers activate and fully adopt Kissflow?
Yeah, thankfully we have a good team that works on that. I think we're calling it product enablement. So as soon as we make the sale, we have a few options. We have people that run basically like workshops to train people on the product. So that's the service that's directly included into a sale. That's something that we'll have to advertise, but not directly involved in as much. And then we also have a professional services team. So it's more of a they do the implementation or they will build the first few apps for companies to help them get off the ground and get running. Again, that's a separate team that we're helping to promote and helping to get the word about them out there. But we don't control or try to make them do things. But I would say both those things are very important for us as a company because it's a platform that we're selling. We need people to use it. We want them to use it. We want them to use it as much as possible. It's a very simple platform, but it's a very big platform too. So it does take a little bit of time and experiment and just showing what's all capable. So we're involved in that. We help to put together those collaterals and put together some of those sessions. But that product enablement team and professional services team really are the ones that do the heavy lifting of making sure those early customer days are successful.
Got it. Let's talk retention. Could you share an example of a specific email sequence, webinar, or onboarding tactic that improved retention?
Yeah, I think retention for us generally comes down to the level of the connection and the relationship. So it's often about we have account managers for a lot of our key accounts. Um, they will come in and they will start working with the people that are part of that account, try to build new things. So we have one customer that I'm working on a case study right now for where I think all of our best customers, they get excited about Kissflow, but they're not quite using it to its full potential. And so then the account manager comes in and says, "Hey, let's brainstorm. Let's think about ways to do that." And a lot of the calls I've been on lately have been more about, okay, how do we demonstrate the ROI of this platform? Which I'm always a little bit hesitant on those calls because it sounds self-serving. It's like, okay, I want to demonstrate why Kissflow is so valuable. But it's amazing how willing and how excited the customer is also to say, yeah, let's do this. Like we want to know how much we're saving with this. We want to know, be able to talk to our finance team and talk to everyone else about what the value is that Kissflow is bringing because they're excited about it and they want to use it and they want to be able to use it to its full extent. So having those account managers work with them, identify new ways, and then also identify ways for them to think about ROI, I think is a big retention work. And again, Kissflow has lots of different ways to track that ROI. It's it is time saved on automated workflows, but it's also, hey, you have confidence now that when you get audited, you're actually going to have a full trail of everything you need to be able to see, or because you replaced this other software, or because you didn't have to hire a third party developer to make this. So there's lots of ways to do it, but it often requires that close relationship and close bond with the customer to be able to come up with it. So those are the things that when I think about our best customers that I know are going to stick with us for a long time, they're the ones that are walking that journey with us and want to be a part of it.
That's so interesting. Speaking of ROI and metrics, one of the biggest questions in PMM is how do we measure success? So at Kissflow, what are the key KPIs and metrics that matter the most?
In terms of an account or in terms of my team specifically.
Your team.
So when we started off, again, there was nothing in terms of a product marketing. So the first metric was get something up and running, which is great. That's kind of where I thrive the most. I do best in that 0 to 1 category of creating something from nothing, providing some traction around it. Then it's a lot of our specific team because we are connected with so many of the other ones. Like we're aligned with marketing in their goals, so they have targets they're trying to achieve in terms of number of leads or value of leads that they're bringing in. But we're also aligned with sales in terms of the number of leads they're able to close and able to build in. Our account managers have metrics they're trying to do in terms of growing accounts, building accounts, maintaining churn rates at a reasonable rate. And the product team as well are trying to get out, talk about their new products and new features that come out. So the product marketing team doesn't have like one single metric that we are there. We're there to equip and engage all the other teams and help them with it. Sometimes we'll have individual projects that have metrics, um, and whether they be involved in one of those 4 other areas, but there's not necessarily one that every year. It's like, hey, this is the one thing that product marketing is responsible for. So we try to be the enabler and the helper of all the other teams that are out.
Did. So many PMMs want to go from senior PMM to director of PMM, but they feel stuck. What specific actions did you take that helped you level up to a director role?
So is not probably the best strategy just because I was already a director of something else, and so it was more of a lateral move for me, coming over to, and we needed somebody. We had a larger team at that time, so it required somebody at that director level to kind of lead the team. But I would say anytime somebody's trying to make those things, you have to focus on the big visible projects. Even when I think about the people that are on my team that I'm trying to get to level up, it's almost always comes down to what's the thing that's going to attract the CEO's attention. Let me give you a project that's going to put you on his or her radar. Let me try to figure out what's the thing that's going to cause enough people to notice that something big is happening that that they'll do it. There are hygiene activities that you just have to do in PM and in any role. So that's good. Like I gotta work on the roadmap and show that. I'm not gonna get promoted because I made a good roadmap or because I made the roadmap better, but it's something I just have to do. But I will get promoted if I come up with a new system for how to access customer information so that when somebody is looking for a new customer or their customer reference in a particular geography from a particular industry and wants to see what professional services they did. And last year we didn't have that data and we had to just manually ask for it. And now we have it in an automated way. Like, yeah, that's something that somebody promoted. Or coming up with a brand new idea for a report that you presented with customer data or with some third party data that you got. Like, the big projects that really kind of drive something, move some needle, some questions. So you have to balance out those hygiene activities that are just like, hey, you did your job, great. versus, "Oh, we didn't have this before, now we do have this, and this is fantastic." Those are the types of things. Solving those big problems is typically what gets people promoted and gets them, more visibility.
Absolutely. Many new marketers also want to enter product marketing, but they don't know where to start. In your opinion, what skills should they focus on building first?
That is a great question. I see that a lot within my own team, within other people. A lot of people see product marketing as, "Oh, this is a level up from content marketing. Or this is something new." And in some, it's a different role. You're still working with content. You don't have to be, but having the ability to write well and to create messaging without having to go through somebody else, that is a great skill to have. But I would say the when I look at, so we have like a whole matrix of skills that product marketing needs to have. The two that stand out that aren't so much there within content marketing, one is just the GTM knowledge. Like, you got to know how sales works. You have to know how accounts work. You have to know what's going on. If you're not comfortable stepping into a situation and quickly giving a demo of your product, like, you're not ready. You've got to learn the product, learn the customer, learn things, and you get some of that knowledge within content marketing, within marketing itself. But to really see beyond that and to see what's going on in other teams, I think that's where you're going to learn the most on the GTM knowledge. The other thing is just, I call it cross team influence. To be able to talk to people in other functions intelligently, understand what they're talking about, meet their needs, and even influence them in a decision you're trying to make. Those are the things that tend to stand out as skills that I don't naturally see in content marketers, that you have to build up that skill set to understand. Other things, like project management, that's something that both sides know. In general, writing and content creation is something that both need to know. But the much broader GTM knowledge, and then the ability to influence decisions across teams, those are the two skills that I think are the things that content marketers specifically need to work on.
Yeah, second one is actually, I feel, very important because product marketing is always communicating with engineering support. We are always gathering information and passing it on. So that's
Yeah,
really
and I would
important.
say one thing I don't do well that other people do on my team that are succeeding is really being a lot more data driven, being willing to jump into your CRM and figure out something and build a new report. That's something that anytime I see somebody doing that, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna pay attention," because they seem to have a knack for understanding something. So much of other marketing or content marketing is just, hey, somebody gives you a job, do it, or you come up with an idea for content and you do it, but you're not as much dealing with, like, okay, reviewing things and trying to figure out the data behind it, the numbers behind it. So that's another important thing to look at.
So every leader has a failure story. Can you share a big mistake that you made in your PMM career and how you recovered from it?
Oh man. So thankfully, I came into PMM after I'd made most of my other mistakes. So, I can think mostly. I used to think, like, when I started my career, I assumed I was going to be a good manager just because I'd always been called a leader in other situations, and so I just assumed I was right. But I was actually quite not great. I was still, like, nice and things, but maybe that was part of the issue. Is I wasn't able to, like, build a team of people, high performing individuals, make sure that they always knew what was expected of them, and could move beyond that. So I feel like the failures that I experienced within those early years of being a content marketing manager, and trying to figure out how to protect people, but also get the best out of them and push them and have higher expectations out of them. Those are the mistakes that I figured out later, how to resolve. So the thing I'm most proud about is just being able to build a good team and have people who enjoy their work, and can sit around and do that. Um, Otherwise, like, right now within product marketing, like, there's not a lot of mistakes I can't recover from pretty quickly. Um, so I think that's helped me a lot in, like, being very flexible, like, not getting too bent at it, that doesn't match. Um, Sometimes I'll find myself on a demo call, and not have the right screen up or not have the the right answer to a question and feel like, oh dang, I messed that one up, or I missed that. But for the most part, those are like recoverable issues. Um, it's more about how the culture of the team and how we interact with the other teams that makes the biggest difference.
You have worked with some incredible products and brands, but I'm curious, outside of your own work, is there a company or product that you're absolutely fascinated by? Maybe something you think is nailing product marketing right now?
It's a good question. I honestly like I try to stay away from a lot of marketing myself, like just just enough to know what other people are doing. I have a lot of respect for our competitors, and they often have big budgets and the ability to go after big things. But I also like the simpler companies that are doing things well. Anytime like we had a someone who was we're looking at websites and they brought up ClickUp's website who was like, it always seems like, okay, this is the best that money can buy because I know they get like a lot of funding and a lot of things that can be there, but like they do it well and they capture their audience with the best way that they can do it. So I think that's one company that's always been like, yeah, if you're gonna spend that much money on something, it should look like that. It should have that feel to it. So I think that would be the one I would say.
Absolutely agree with you. A ClickUp is so fun and so easy to use that it is always like even my one of my favorite companies.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the last question. What's the one book or resource you'd recommend for someone looking to improve their marketing skills?
In my early days, I mean, this probably date me, but I would say like I just devoured everything from Seth Godin. So those he was like a unique voice during that time, which was when for me that was, early 2010s when found out about him. There was just a level of clarity that he was able to speak into marketing specifically that helped me to be able to step back and not just do things because we were supposed to do them, but to ask questions and to think about what was going on. So I would still think like I'd go back and read those and still get something out of them, and I appreciate the way that he made space for that. There are other people today that are doing interesting things around messaging and around how to position things, but that one and then Copy Blogger was like the big influence at that time, and I feel like both those came at a good point in my life that I needed that direction and help to understand what was going on because I didn't know marketing at all. So people who are already in it maybe have a better understanding, but I feel like both those just spoke with a level of clarity that I really appreciated.
Got it. So that's all of my questions. This has been such a valuable conversation. If someone wants to connect with you or follow your work, where's the best place to reach you? And what's the name of your podcast?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is easy. I tend to if you like send me a request and also like put a note in there like that you heard us here or whatever, then it's an easy request acceptance for me. I'm also easy to find, Neil at Kissflow.com. The podcast I'm on right now is Citizen Development Live. I've done many podcasts and even several for Kissflow. I think this is my third, potentially fourth one that I've done for them. So it's fun. I always like doing it, and podcasts is fun to do. So I appreciate you, Priyanka, for having me on this one.
Thank you so much, Neil. I really loved having you here. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everyone. If you found this episode helpful, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and drop a rating on Spotify. It really helps more marketers discover these expert insights. For episode updates and even more marketing wisdom, follow the Who Invited Marketing page on LinkedIn. And hey, if you have any guest suggestions or topics you'd like to hear more about, let me know in the comments or connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning into Who Invited Marketing. I'll see you in the next episode.